trying to become the 10th fighter in UFC history to realize a belt in a...
Oh my god, Ilia Topuria is just something else, man. He really is. I think he's the best fighter in the world. He's he might actually be the best fighter we've ever seen. Not the greatest fighter of all time. Obviously, you need more title defenses, more accolades for that. But as far as the best, he might just be that, dude. To come off of 3 knockouts in a row over Volkanovski, Max Holloway, who nobody has ever been able to do that to Max Holloway before, not even officially knock him down. Now, I saw a lot of people leading up to this fight trying to doing whatever they could to take away from Ilia Topuria's best wins by saying, oh no, Max is chinny somehow. All of a sudden at 145, even though he fought his whole career at 145 and never got dropped because he put on a little bit more muscle, suddenly he's going to be chinny, even though he looked pretty good on the scales, at least as good as he normally does, right? So, I mean, come on, man. But where's the asterisk here? You're going to say that Charles Oliveira is 35, right? 35 curves, guys. That wouldn't have happened if he was 34. No way. Nah. Ilia Topuria simply hits too hard. Now, the fight was a banger up until the knockout. I was hoping it would go a little bit longer. That's why I was predicting the second round. I wanted to see a little bit more action. But goddamn, Ilia's too good. He's too good, man. That right hand just bong right on the chin. Left hook behind it didn't even matter. It just resulted in like a few more brain cells lost for Charles Oliveira. But of course, big respect to him, man. He did what he should not have done, but what many people were expecting him to do, which is just to walk forward, man. He fought as he always does. Foolishly, of course, against his better judgment. He should not have done that against someone who hits as hard as Ilia Topuria. But now we see that his power, in fact, I mean, we already knew that his power translated at 155, considering he starched a 155er already. But this is just extra confirmation in case anyone didn't realize it. The man is so good. His boxing is levels above everyone else's, right? This type of puncher we have not seen in this sport up to this point. And how about Ilia Topuria preemptively apologizing to Charles Oliveira? I didn't want it to be with you. That shit is so goddamn cool in retrospect, just because he made it look as easy as he said he was going to, right? This level of confidence and this level of belief in one's power and ability has never been seen up to this point. It's insane, and that's why I don't think he can lose, right? I don't think he can lose. You saw Charles Oliveira tried to tie up with him, tried to impose his size advantage over Ilia. It did not work. Ilia did very well on the ground. Of course, Charles was attacking a leg, but he was never in much danger, and once it got back to the feet, he just started putting the jab on Charles, changing levels with the jab, going to the body, and then he comes over the top with the right hand in the pocket. Not sure what Charles Oliveira was thinking. Maybe he felt some shots from Ilia earlier in the round and maybe didn't think that the man hit that hard, but then all it took was that one. And the dude is the hardest hitter in the UFC. He probably is the hardest puncher pound for pound that we have in the sport right now. He definitely is, right? But it's not down to his power, like I always say. It's down to that flawless technique, and it's getting better and better every single fight. We're seeing it after every fight. His accuracy improves. He overswings less, right? And he's more selective with his shots. But when he lands, it's so consequential that he can afford to be more selective with his shots. That's the difference between him and all these point fighters out there, like the low volume strikers out there. Not even that Ilia's necessarily low volume, but comparing him to other low volume strikers who are pretty selective with their shots like Ilia is. Compare the results, right? You get the tippy-tappy pussyfoot around the octagon, circling the octagon for 15 minutes with most of these quote-unquote snipers that we have in the UFC nowadays when they don't, in fact, snipe anybody, right? Look at MVP, all these dudes. No, Ilia Topuria is the best striker in the sport right now because he's going out there and he's KOing the best fighters in the world. Time after time after time. This run of 3 wins right here, Volkanovski, Max Holloway. I was saying it pretty much every video prior to this one, talking about Ilia Topuria's greatness and how good I think he is, and saying that he was already on the best 2-fight win streak we had ever seen, like back-to-back knockouts over the 2 best 145ers of all time, and just to cap that off with another knockout over another all-time great. Like, Charles Oliveira is a top 3 lightweight of all time, and he isn't washed, right? This isn't a washed version of Oliveira that Ilia ran into. No, Charles is very, very good, right? Had a very close fight with Arman Tsarukyan, and has only really lost to the best of the best. Ilia is just that fucking good. And I don't think I have to even speak on it much more. You guys understand. He's just so fucking good, dude. It's it. I've been saying it for a long time. I hope you guys stop underestimating him. I hope that you guys just come to the conclusion that he is that good and he is the best fighter in the world. And there's a good reason why Islam Makhachev didn't want to fight him, because I believe Islam's team and Islam himself recognized the risk that he posed. Now, I'm not sure if this result in particular like strengthens my claim that he will defeat Islam or would have defeated Islam, because I was already so sure of it before. But this to me is just confirmation of how elite this man is. Like, if you guys were writing him off, counting him out, trying to take away from him before this, I hope you've come to your senses at this point. Just realize that we are in the midst of a real special talent. That's what Ilia Topuria is, right? This may just be a once in a lifetime type of fighter. He is literally the new Conor McGregor. Look at what he's been doing. He may not speak as well as Conor McGregor did, right? His English isn't his first language. Maybe as he begins to become more accustomed to using English, he may actually become a better trash talker. But it's just what he's doing, right? Calling Paddy Pimblett into the cage. Now, I thought that was a funny moment, by the way. I want to speak on that too, because he called out Arman Tsarukyan and Paddy Pimblett, but then Joe Rogan was like, yeah, you're talking about Paddy Pimblett, right? Like, you weren't supposed to call out Arman, Ilia. Like, I'm pretty sure he went off script there.
There is a blown there is a guy that when it comes to the liver, his back hurts. So I don't know, whoever is ready for me, I'm here. Let's fight. If you ready, I'm here.
You're talking about Paddy Pimblett.
I think he was just simply supposed to call out Paddy Pimblett, but Joe Rogan completely ignored it. And I kind of feel bad for Arman in that case. You may say that he deserves it, but come on, dude. The Arman fight is a lot more interesting than the Paddy fight. But then again, there is beef there with Paddy, so of course that one is going to happen. And considering that Ilia does everything he says he's going to do, when he says that he's going to put his balls on Paddy Pimblett's forehead,
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my balls in your forehead.
Can't knock me.
Yeah.
Get knocked.
are we supposed to think he's joking at this point? Because now I'm going to predict first round knockout. He then takes his shorts off like Derek Lewis when his balls was hot, and he puts those balls on Paddy's head. Because listen, this man doesn't lie. We have to expect that to happen. Betting lines should open up around whether he will put his balls on him or not at this point. This man doesn't lie. He just does what he says. And I honestly just don't think that Paddy is ready for that level. He's not. Nobody is in this division. 155 is fucked for a little while, right? These contenders are fucked. I think the contender with the highest chance of dethroning Ilia is Arman, right? If he's able to use his wrestling. But I'm not convinced anymore, dude. I'm not convinced. Now that we see that this man can, in fact, starch the best of the best. And before you say that, Charles is chinny. He's never been chinny like that. He's never been sparked out like that. That is different. That is something special. I'm telling you guys. This is a once-in-a-lifetime type of fighter. Ilia Topuria, when he says he represents the next generation, he's not talking shit. This man doesn't talk shit. Everything he says comes true. So stop writing this man off just because he's short. Oh, he's too short for 155. What the fuck happened, man? But God bless the Charles fans out there. You were riding real hard for your boy, understandably, dude. Charles Oliveira is a lovable figure, but at the end of the day, you must accept that this is just way better for the sport, right? Having the 35-year-old Charles Oliveira, like, he's on his way out of the sport pretty soon. I assume he's only like probably in the sport for another few fights, maybe like 2 fights at maximum, maybe 3 if we're lucky. So to have the 28-year-old phenom, like truly special talent to Ilia Topuria as champion is just infinitely better for the division, for the sport. He is undeniably the biggest star in the sport, and Dana White needs to promote him as such. This is the man who can save the UFC if he is promoted properly. Ilia Topuria will sell his fights. He's shown that he's willing to sell his fights. He'll put on his own press conferences so he can talk shit and say exactly what he's going to do. This is the second coming of Conor McGregor, and he's been memed for that, right? Because of the tattoos and all of it, the way that he talks shit, and some of his one-liners kind of biting off Conor McGregor. But at the end of the day, he's doing it, and he's doing it better than Conor McGregor did. It's just how it is, dude. Ilia Topuria is that guy. He's the man. What a performance, dude. It would be tough to say that he isn't my favorite fighter in the UFC right now. I know Peter Yan exists. I know Dustin Poirier exists. But there's just something about Ilia Topuria. I love rooting for the guy. He's so fucking smug. His little smirks are just they're too lovable, man. I can't not support this man. Best fighter in the world, absolutely. Now let's move on to the rest of the card, man. Holy shit. Yeah, Janice versus Hines wasn't bad as far as fat heavyweight scraps go. Guys came to bang, man. Hines is quite tough, but he did convincingly lose that one. Yeah, nothing to write home about, but it was an alright fight for sure. It was half decent. But this was a very good fight, man. Jacoby Smith, he hits very hard. The man has bombs. He's jacked out of his mind, too. This man is solid. He looks a little bit saucy out there. Strong, solid grappling. The man is actually just very well-rounded, and I can see him beating a lot of guys. I can see him becoming a top 15 ranked fighter, maybe pushing top 10. But let's see how he does against higher ranked opponents, man, because he looked like he was slowing down. in that first round. It looked like Nico Price was getting ahead of steam on him, but he was still able to push and go for that rear naked choke. And wow, really impressive, honestly, from Jacoby Smith. And he's pretty inexperienced in the sport, man, especially in the UFC. I think that's like his second fight only, second finish as well. I see a lot of potential in this man for sure. And then we have Terrence McKinney versus Slava Claus. But I will say, I forgot to mention, I picked Denise to win and I picked Smith to win, so I got those correct. And I got this one correct as well. First round finish, I thought it would be a knockout. But dude, Terrence McKinney, he could be a top 5 fighter if fights were 1 round long. Like in that first round, this dude is super hard to deal with, very physically strong, and he can finish the fight wherever it goes, man. Terrence McKinney, he's a fun fighter to watch, dude. He is a really, really fun fighter to watch. I'm a fan. I was hoping to see Slava Claus, show more, but dude, he wasn't able to show anything. He threw a spinning back kick and I think a leg kick, and that's all it took. Terrence McKinney got him to the ground, and he was fucked. So yeah, great performance from Terrence McKinney. He is putting a nice little streak together, dude. The amount of first round finishes he has, it's unreal. Araujo versus Cortez wasn't too bad. It was a relatively dominant performance from Cortez. I thought she very much deserved that one. It wasn't overly entertaining. I wasn't overly impressed by either lady, but half decent WMMA fight for sure, I guess. Oh, and this one is a sad one for me, man. I was very high in Hyder Emil. I thought the Crimson Chin could take it, but he got starched. He got pieced up real bad, got caught with a knee, and that's all it took, man. I knew that some sniper would be able to take him out. I didn't think it would be this one, but he got taken out, dude, and that chin may just be cracked. He's 35, dude, the Filipino Crimson Chin. I was so high in this man. But I have no doubt that he'll continue to deliver scraps, like regardless of if he's finished or not. He's just such a fun fighter to watch. But that was a shame. But Delgado showed that he is very skilled, very, very sharp striker. Great finish for the man. Prime RoboCop is back, baby. Once he starts bleeding, it's over for you. He was just walking Jack Hermanson down, throwing big bombs. A lot of those shots were kind of hitting the gloves and hitting the guard of Jack Hermanson. He was being quite predictable with his offense. It was just left hook, right hook, jab, right hook, left hook. It was very much predictable, his approach. But with Gregory Rodriguez, it only takes that one, dude. And he put that left hook on Jack Hermanson's chin, put him down. That was brutal. He was out for a good amount of time. And unfortunately, Herb Dean did not step in before Gregory Rodriguez was able to commit homicide. But wow, what a knockout for him. I was out of my seat. As you know, RoboCop is one of my favorite fighters in the UFC, and it just felt so nice to see him get back in the winning column, man. What a shot, dude. Maybe we're just underrating Hany Barcelos, because Peyton Talbot looked so much better on the ground this fight. In fact, he was quite dominant over Felipe Lima. He was flipping the script every time Felipe Lima wanted to get to the ground. Peyton Talbot was reversing him, getting top mount, and when he does, man, Peyton Talbot has some dirty elbows from top mount, even from the guard, man. Seriously brutal elbows. And this was a well-deserved win here, right? Felipe Lima was landing some good shots, right? He had some good moments of his own. But Peyton Talbot showed that he's not just a hype train. He is actually quite talented. Maybe he was pushed a little bit too fast. Maybe he was hyped up a little bit too much. But Peyton Talbot is undeniably very talented, well-rounded. He's a good fighter, man. That was a tough test against a really, really highly touted prospect who was considered to be the more well-rounded fighter. But Peyton Talbot proved that he was the better man on the night, well-deserved victory, and he may just be back as far as I'm concerned. And then we have Beneil Dariush versus Money Moicano. And this fight went similarly to what I expected. I thought Dariush would win this one by decision. I thought that if it became a test of skill, right, on the feet, on the ground, Beneil Dariush was always going to have a leg up over Moicano, because I always thought that he was the better fighter, right? You look at the skills, the way he throws hands, the way that he scrambles, the way that he grapples. He's always been a higher level, and Moicano has always tended to slow down, especially if you're able to take him past the second round and expend a lot of energy grappling. He slows down considerably, and he slowed down a lot in this fight. And Beneil Dariush very much deserved to win this one. I didn't expect for Moicano to drop Beneil like he did in the first, but once Beneil survived, and then he did kind of play it safe in the second round, and then in the third round was really trying to go for it against Moicano. And it was a fun scrap, man. Like, the crowd was booing at times when Beneil was holding Moicano against the fence. But those boos were not warranted, because this fight was full of action. It was very good, and Beneil Dariush is back, man. He looks like my grandfather, and I can never not root for somebody who looks like my grandfather. What did we just witness with this fight here? That was the closest thing to a Dragon Ball Z fight scene that I've ever seen in real life. These two men just absolutely threw down. Brandon Royval deserves all the credit in the world for being one of the toughest individuals I've ever seen. Like, dude, Joshua Van was throwing such high volume, cracking him with the same right overhand, same left hook behind it, over and over and over again. And Royval was just walking through them like it was nothing. Joshua Van was walking through his shots. This was like the male equivalent to Weili Zhang versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? But more steam in those shots, dude. These guys were eating bombs. I could not believe it, dude. What a scrap. The second that the first punch was landed, these dudes both just mutually agreed, all right, now it's time to bang for 15 minutes. And they did that, man. Joshua Van almost got him out of there in the third round, at the very, very end of the third round, when he found those knee stomps, dude, because Royval was just darting into range, crashing into Joshua Van all willy-nilly. Wasn't really respecting the power of Van, or maybe he was just pushing for a finish because maybe he felt like he needed one. But every round, it was very close, although I thought maybe round 1 was clearly Van's, round 2 was potentially clearly Royval's, but then that knockdown at the end of round 3, dude, and he was busting up that knee. Like, I would feel quite hard done by if I was Royval there, because you're doing so well, and then that little adjustment from Joshua Van made the difference, and he showed that he's an elite fighter. And I believe if anyone's going to beat Pantoja, it is this guy. It is Joshua Van. I said it with the hand speed of his and the presumably stonewall takedown defense, but we haven't seen him grapple with someone like Pantoja, and I'm not too sure anyone can grapple with Pantoja. Would I pick Van against Pantoja? I'm not too sure, but I really enjoyed their little face-off, man. Their moment in the octagon was quite funny. Like, Pantoja just looking at Joshua Van with loving eyes. It was quite adorable, to be honest. Like, Pantoja is such a wholesome fighter, and I could tell that he really does have a lot of respect for Joshua Van as a contender, and he can't wait for that fight. I can't wait for that fight. That has potential to be one of the greatest fights of all time, I think, on paper, if Joshua Van can deal with the grappling, because he has such a crazy gas tank too with that high volume. Dude, if he's able to survive the first couple of rounds and Pantoja starts to slow down like he does, I could see a finish. I could see Joshua Van being the first one to finish him. But holy shit, this fight, it actually blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Some of the exchanges, dude, seriously, like Tasmanian Devil. This fucking Joshua Van is the Burmese Devil, or whatever you call him, the Myanmarian, I'm not sure if that's what you call people from Myanmar, Devil. This dude is simply the most entertaining fighter in the UFC right now. I won't take any other opinion, right? Any dissenting opinion about Joshua Van, you're now on my list, right? You're on my shit list now. Unfortunately, say no bad words about Joshua Van. He's the fucking man. 2-week turnaround against the number 1 contender and convincingly beats him. This dude is, he's it. He is it. Him, Ilia Topuria, Peter Yan. Those are my favorite fighters in the UFC. Joshua Van, holy fuck, dude. Holy fuck. I've watched that fight like 3 times since last night. Crazy shit. God damn it. I loved it so much. And then we get to the co-main event, which is the last fight we'll speak on, because we've already spoken about the main event. But wow, man, I've been talking about how underrated Pantoja is. Like, he seems to be counted out by a way larger subsect of the fan base than you would expect, considering how easy he makes it look against a lot of these guys. And he's been making it look even easier recently. Like, I feel like that win over Kai Asakura just galvanized him even more, because it's just weird that people were even picking Kai Asakura going into that one. It's just so crazy and disrespectful to him. I think he has a chip on his shoulder with those pound-for-pound rankings as well. Like, I think he's the lowest ranked champion, even though he has, like, 4 title defenses at this point. And he's very quickly approaching like flyweight GOAT status at this point. I just feel like the talent pool at flyweight nowadays, it's so rich with real genuine talent. And he's properly cleared out his division at this point. Like, Pantoja, if I was Pantoja, I would try and move up and see if I can get double champ status. But the way I see it, Pantoja's just going to stay at 125 and keep picking off these contenders and proving everybody wrong. It's just nuts, man. He's too good on the ground. And I predicted this exact thing, by the way. I predicted 3rd round rear naked choke submission, right? I specifically called that out. It's Pantoja's bread and butter. No one can stop him from getting the back. And he did exactly what I thought, man. He's just a marauder. Even the hardest hitter at 125 can't get him out of there. He's still able to maraud through those shots. But he showed higher level defense than we're used to seeing, right? He was mixing up his striking better than he normally does. He looked a little bit less sloppy as well in there. Looked like he was slowing down, kind of going into the 3rd round and the end of the 2nd round. But then he still gets the finish, dude. Stop counting out Pantoja. He's one of the most underrated fighters of all time, one of the most underrated champions of all time. And he should be minimum top 5 pound for pound. Like, it should be Ilia Topuria number 1 at this point, maybe Islam Makhachev number 2 or Merab, and then Islam Makhachev or Merab number 3, right? Very interchangeable, the top 3, I would say, depending on how you weigh up their wins and their win streaks and all that. But for me, Ilia at this point should be number 1, considering he's starting everybody. But top 4 and 5, or number 4 and 5, you need to have Pantoja there. Right? You need to have Pantoja. I think Pantoja is just outside. I think he's creeping up on those top 3 guys right now. He really is. But flyweight champions just do not get the respect that they deserve. But if he goes out there and he beats Joshua Van now, is he the greatest flyweight of all time? Is he the greatest flyweight of all time? For me, I think even though Demetrius Johnson put together all those title defenses, it was so clear that he was just levels above all the contenders back then. Pantoja, we've seen actually like face proper adversity and then still go through these guys in the end. I don't know. For me, I think one more title defense and Pantoja is potentially greater as far as UFC flyweights than Demetrius Johnson. But Demetrius Johnson as a whole, right, with his run through ONE FC as well, is probably greater all time, one of the best fighters ever, of course. But we cannot keep gatekeeping these GOAT statuses from fighters like Pantoja when they're doing what they're doing. Like, look at how rich with talent flyweight is right now, and look at what Pantoja is doing to these fighters. It's simply unreal, and he deserves credit for it. He's one of the best in the world, one of the best ever, I think, at this point too. The dude, his skill set is just so underrated. Stop underrating Pantoja. He's the man. But that does conclude my thoughts on UFC 317 International Fight Week. The card lived up to expectations. Banger fights. We got one of the best fights of all time on there. Crazy result in the main event. Expected result in the co-main event, but a good fight nonetheless. Like, the whole main card was filled with great fights. Even Peyton Talbot Lima was a much better fight, much more competitive fight, and much more high-level fight than I expected it to be. Mutually high-level, and I really enjoyed that. It was just a really good card, man. Awesome results. Van got it done. Topuria got it done. RoboCop got it done. All my favorite fighters on this card got it done. And I'm over the moon for it, guys. Anyway, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.